Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce Ng. Joyce, it is well after midnight here on the East Coast. The
It is Monday. It is Lady Gaga's birthday right now, March 28th.
Happy
also
birthday.
My brother's birthday.
Happy birthday to your brother. Happy birthday to Lady Gaga. We made it, Joyce. The Oscars finished. They're over. It was incredibly long ceremony, about
Longer
3.5
than 3 hours. They told me 3 hours.
Longer than last year when they cut all these categories and still did it. This show will be forever remembered for Will Smith slapping Chris Rock in the face. We will talk about that later. But CODA
we're going to bury the lead here.
Yeah, no, we're not burying the lead. We'll get to it. Obviously, that is like the most lasting image of this show will be that still photo of Chris Rock getting slapped in the face. But no, CODA won Best Picture. And I guess the takeaway, Joyce, was just the most basic chalk winners.
Oh my God, so boring. I was falling asleep. Just every envelope that was opening, I was just like snooze, like Z's.
Not one surprise. I think I went, and let me look here. I got my picks here. I went, I think I got 69% right, which makes me like incredibly poor because most people seemingly got 22 out of 23.
Well, like we said 5 days ago now, or whatever, when we did our predictions, if you just predict Dune, all 6 below the line categories it was favored for, you probably got a perfect score. There are probably a lot of people who had perfect scores because it was just the favorites, and literally the only surprise was an animated short with the windshield wiper because the favorite was Robin.
So I botched the shorts, which we talked about last week, because I was like, oh, I went with the dress instead of the Riz Ahmed short, and that one, and then I had Robin, which everybody had, and so I lost 2 out of 3 on the shorts, and I was like, oh boy, and then Dune won Best Editing. It just felt like a very, it felt very lazy. Like they were like, oh, like these are the front runners, and it almost felt like they looked at the odds. It felt like they either looked at the odds and they felt like it was a long season and they just were like, let's go home. It felt very uninspired. I was just like, where are the people who voted for Parasite and Bong Joon-ho? They voted for CODA. They were wrapped up with CODA this year. So CODA won Best Picture, shattering all kinds of records. We had talked about so this. Many. It won all 3 of its Oscars, but it was not nominated in any like directing, editing, didn't get a DGA nomination. It's the first time in how many years, Joyce? 80 years? It's the first since Grand Hotel to win Best Picture without a directing or any below the line nominations, and editing did not exist then. It was created 2 years later, and Grand Hotel was only nominated for Best Picture, so it just won that. Pretty much pulled a CODA 80 something years, 90 years ago. Power of the Dog won just 1 award for Jane Campion Best Director. I have to pour one out for Power of the Dog here. My Power of the Dog mug with Kirsten and Jesse. So they were very sweet at the ceremony. I thought both Kirsten and Jesse Plemons. But yeah, one and award, the Graduate, rude to Kiki, Amy Schumer's bit to Kirsten at the end. Rude. I thought that was kind of funny. I thought their timing was good. But yeah, so Power of the Dog. So that was the first time since The Graduate, right? So the last movie to just win director was The Graduate. It's the 8th movie overall to win just director, but a lot of the early ones were like early days of Oscars, so it's like, yeah. Giant also just won director, but Power of the Dog is now the 3rd film to go 1 for 12. Johnny Belinda only won actress for Jane Wyman, and Beckett only won adapted screenplay. But like Beckett got killed that year because My Fair Lady was also nominated that year for 12 Oscars, and they were just like gaga for that. Yeah. So that was wild. Jessica Chastain won Best Actress. So we flopped on our Penelope Cruz pick. Like we talked about this on the live show, but I thought we made really compelling cases for Penelope Cruz. Listen, you have to take risks with these things, and usually not this year. Usually there is a surprise or two, or like, and like in the past or like in recent years, they've shown that they not necessarily like they have like good taste, depending on how you feel about these movies, but yeah, like they show they have taste, right? Or they show they have their own mind about something. It felt like a last year, but like Anthony Hopkins, yeah, it felt more adventurous, I would say. Yeah, this year felt very safe. Yeah, this was super safe, just like chalk, and it's kind of disappointing. It's also kind of surprising because, I mean, not like we had talked about this, the danger of putting stock in those anonymous ballots, because it could be like the same person doing like 3 different sites, or just like you're talking about a 9,000 member academy that is got, maybe 25 to 30% international voters who are not like being interviewed by the Hollywood Reporter, let's say, or like rolling around, whatever, wherever people go in LA to get like coffee or whatever. So it's like, it's hard to get a real read of these things, but it did feel like there was a world, like you said, like last year with like Anthony Hopkins' win, that maybe this year there will be some surprises, but there just wasn't. I in the pre-show when we were, again, literally, like we joked about this for weeks, but literally refreshing Kyle Buchanan's Twitter feed to find out who won. I was like, oh wow, Dune even won editing. It just won everything, and I was like,
yeah, when Dune won all its categories except the makeup, which obviously wasn't winning, like Tammy Faye was winning that.
Right.
I was just like, it's gonna win everything else. It's predicted to win on the main show, and I was like, CODA's gonna win. I was like, it just really felt like that. I was like, I don't think, and I slacked this to you like during the main shows, like we're not gonna get any surprises.
No,
like the only surprise was windshield wiper, and we didn't even see that live.
Correct. We got like, when Dune won cinematography, I was like, oh, this is done. And Paradox not winning Best Picture, and then Sean Hayter won Best Adapted Screenplay, and it was like, oh, this is done. And then
it was just like a very long, tedious march to the inevitable. It was just. And like happy for all the winners. Congratulations to all of them. But it was unexciting for people like us.
Yeah, it felt like it was just, especially because it just felt like maybe I'm giving it too much credit. I mean, the CODA win, if you would have told us like even 2 or 3 weeks ago, we would have been surprised, because
it's truly remarkable what has happened in the last 3 weeks.
Because like CODA would have been like a shocking upset. We're not taking it very seriously as a Best Picture winner, and obviously just steamrolled in. And I think that has a lot to do to the enthusiasm people had for the film. And like we said, for weeks, people who watch it, they like it, they cry, they laugh, and that's like what they're voting on. And it's kind of just like a passion pick on that front. But I was like, even the acting awards, I really, and no disrespect to Jessica Chastain, she's incredibly good in Eyes of Tammy Faye, but I was just like, oh, I just can't believe that she's just going to get like kind of pushed through, because that was such a chaotic race, very not a real clear front runner. And then she kind of just like willed her front runnerness into existence. Like we had said, she won at SAG, where she was always going to probably win because she is like very SAG friendly, and it's a very SAG friendly performance. And then because of that, she likely won a Critics' Choice, which I think they would have had a different result if it had been earlier than SAG. And then that enough, and it's like, oh, she's the front runner. It basically, like, she was like, I am the front runner, and people were like, you are the front runner, we're gonna vote for you. And that's what it felt like a little, honestly. I just can't believe.
Totally. And like for a while, it seemed like this Best Actress race would be crazier than last year.
Yes.
Especially because like there were no Best Picture nominees of the 5. And it was so boring at the end.
Oh my gosh.
Like, no offense to Jess. Great for her, Oscar winner. Sebastian Stan, he tweeted or Instagram storied happy birthday to her and called her an Oscar winner last week. So it's like, it came true.
It came true. And she got to thank Andrew Garfield from the stage.
Yeah, and also great speech, amazing speech.
All the speeches, I mean, like we'll compartmentalize the Will Smith speech, because obviously that would have to get a little thorny with what happened with Chris Rock. But I thought the speeches were great, honestly, almost across the board. I thought even like the non-actors, but I mean, like Troy Kotzer's speech I thought was wonderful. Ariana DeBose's speech was really great. I actually really loved the way they framed the winners. Did you like that at all? Like where they had them, like it was like a medium shot, so they were
like the cinematography.
I did. I thought that was cool because it felt like a little more intimate, and honestly made it feel a little more like a Zoom meeting or whatever, which I think they kind of like had a leftover from last year. But I thought like all the winner speeches were like really fun and enthusiastic, and there were no real duds in the bunch.
Jane came prepared with a speech this time.
That was smart. And I love that Jane, you know what, obviously she came with the speech. She definitely went rogue at the Critics' Choice Awards, and I don't think that affected anything with like what happened with Power of the Dog.
She won.
Because she won obviously for Best Director, and I don't think that would have hurt its best picture chances. But it was funny to me that she obviously was like, I am definitely going to stay on script here and not like just kind of riff, but she still took a shot at Kevin Costner, whose intro was interminable. Just like, he was really going long.
That was a great line from her. That was very dramatic.
Very dramatic, Kevin. I was like, I love Jane Campion. And I actually was really, I thought it was so, like before the Oscars, she put up, I think it was, Susanna Bier maybe put it up on Instagram. It was a photo of like, a lot of the nominees. So it was like her, Steven Spielberg, Chloe Zhao from last year, Guillermo, Ava DuVernay, and I think that was it. Or Taika Waititi in there too.
Yeah, Taika was there.
So it was like really fun. And she just seemed like she has such camaraderie with the filmmakers. I was actually, even though I love Kevin Costner and I didn't think whoever wrote his scripted patter probably could, maybe
He
we
wrote
could,
it himself, you know that.
well, maybe you could have probably used an edit. But I was a little disappointed that Chloe Zhao didn't give out best director. I know she's not as like a name brand as Kevin Costner, but like that would have been a cool moment if Chloe Zhao give Jane Campion an Oscar. I don't know, but alas,
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
mean
the
they
producer.
did that last year with like Bong Joon-ho from Korea doing
Right.
it. Because that's not a thing they usually do, like the previous year's director
No,
giving it,
but she's also like, I think she's like a name brand filmmaker at this point. I mean,
yeah,
it's
and
not
that would
like
have been
she's
cool
like,
because it's like the female to female thing.
right. But I mean,
Obviously.
like Kevin Costner, cool. I thought it was like, I
They,
mean,
you
when
know,
they,
like the West.
it was the West, and also
Sam
it's like
Elliott
a,
was not going to do it, so
no, but Kevin Costner works, right? Because Sam Elliott's on a Yellowstone spinoff, so technically they're in the
yeah,
same.
they're in
parent
the
company.
Yellowstone cinematic universe.
Yeah, they're all in the same universe. So that was no, but all those speeches were fine. I thought everything was we talked about, so the show is incredibly long. It was much longer than last year.
So long. What was it was well past 3.5 hours.
It was, because I think it was almost 3 hours and 40 something minutes, I think, because I think it ended at like 11:40.
It was 3 hours and 42 minutes. Incredible.
And last year's was shorter, and so they cut all the categories out, like we had said, to make a shorter show, and then decided we're just going to air those.
Last year was 3 hours 19 minutes.
So it was 20 minutes longer, and they cut out all those categories to make it shorter, and then we're like, oh, we're just going to air them, and we're going to air the speeches slightly edited. Apparently they were,
you just don't see the walk to the stage, that's all.
So you just didn't see the walk to the stage. It didn't cut out any time. And it was just like, why did you do this? Why did you spend all this energy and all this outrage on this stupid thing?
It was so poorly edited in as well.
Rough.
Like imagine seeing some of those speeches live. Imagine seeing like a live Riz Ahmed speech, like Joe Walker's speech, the Dune editor who won, was a great speech. According to people who were there, like in the Dolby, like it killed in the room when he first gave it at like what 7:17 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah,
I don't know.
pretty nuts. And then like he was, all of the speeches were actually solid, and like we said, the room was even full. It seemed like most of the actors actually ended up in the room for the pre-show.
Yeah, I think a lot of them went in to. I mean, we knew Jessica was going to go in.
It also just makes you wonder. I know prime time is 8:00 in the East Coast, but they could have literally just started the show at 7 and aired that, and then like even later in the show done like, hey, if you missed it, here's who won these. You know what I mean? They could have done it like that. I intensely dislike like backseat producing and like coming up with things. I hate that. Like I hate when people are like, oh, I would have done this differently if I was like the filmmaker or the producer or whatever. But at the same time, let me do that quickly. If I was the producer choice, I would just say like, what if we started at 7, did all what we did, and then later in the show, like 2 hours later, you could still be like, hey, in case you missed it, like Dune won best editing. Here's like a 2-second clip of the guy saying thank you or whatever, right? You could have done that. I'm not Will Packer though, so what do I know? I will say like, I don't even know. None of the other winners really surprised. I can't even imagine.
There were no surprises. Like I have nothing to talk about.
No, it was, I guess the things I would say, if I'm like beyond like the show and the will of it all, I would say like there does seem to be a I don't know if it's like real or not, but there definitely is some kind of bias against Netflix, I would argue, just based on like how they won one for Jane, obviously. Power of the Dog, I think we all would have expected to win like multiple Oscars. And then Apple comes in with CODA, and it could just be the films themselves, right? Because like I don't think people necessarily care about the studios, and maybe that's me being naive, but I'm like, people just like CODA. I think that's why it won. I think if CODA was on Netflix, it still would have won. But I do think
imagine if Netflix had CODA. Oh my gosh.
But I do think it's like it's now like a thing that Netflix has not won Best Picture and had like this was probably its best shot, even better than Roma to win, I would say.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean it's funny, the joke everyone had 2 weeks ago came true. Like Netflix is gonna suffer the same thing that it suffered at the Emmys. Like it was beaten to the top prize by all these other streamers. I give Netflix a lot of credit for investing in these auteurs.
Yeah,
a lot of name auteurs and just giving them free reign, really not a lot of notes to make whatever they want, fund their films, because there's really not a sector anymore for like adult drama adult cinema, like just like the mid-tier or like mid-budget adult drama since the recession, like theatrically. So that's great for them. I hope they continue. I hope like this loss, like this is the closest it's probably been, even closer than Roma, doesn't discourage them from investing in these auteurs. I think they'll get there eventually. They just need to find a coda, like an actual crowd pleaser. Because I don't think any of these films that they've had are that, like, obviously Power of the Dog, not really. Roma, not really. Irishman, not really. Mank, not really. Like Trial of Chicago 7, it wanted to be, but it never got there.
I also wonder if how they would have handled, like, because Trial of Chicago 7 was an acquisition title from Paramount, and I wonder if they would have how they would have actually handled that if it was their own. Not that they handled the
From the
campaign
beginning.
differently, but like the movie itself, and like what would they have done perhaps differently? Because like you said, they don't seem like they offer a lot of notes. As someone who loves these movies, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that we have like the Irishman, Mank, and Roma, and Power of the Dog, that they exist. It just is like, I do think I said this like last week we were making our picks too, but I just think there is something with the fact that they're a streaming service and these are very, very cinematic movies, and CODA is like very easy to watch at home, and I think that helped it win. And I'm like,
TV movie, I heard.
so I'm like, oh, like maybe, like, I wonder, we'll see. I'm sure Netflix will come back next year. I know I'm sure they have like a ton of things that will be very, very well received in the next year. I know Apple will probably have like the Martin Scorsese, maybe it'll be flipped because Apple will have like the heady Martin Scorsese Killers of the Flower Moon in the race, and maybe Netflix will have something a little more coda-y.
They'll have their coda.
And we'll see. But
I think they'll get there. I don't think like anyone actually like hates them. I think it is like,
no, I don't also, Joyce, most of them seemingly work for them, so that's
yeah. And like I personally know a lot of people who work on Netflix, not in like the film side.
Sure.
Like editorially, I know a lot of people who work there.
Yeah, of course. And I'm like, all the famous people work there too as well, it seems, and they only keep growing.
It's like, like they got there eventually with The Crown and The Queen's Gambit. Like I think it's funny because like all their TV stuff, like they know how to make populist stuff with TV, and just like a lot of their TV stuff completely disposable, right? It's like you binge it one weekend and then it's like you forget about it. And it was like a fun watch. But and like I think I guess maybe they've been focused a lot more on like the art house stuff on the film side. And then like a lot of their populist films like Extraction or like Bird Box, it's like they're not winning Oscars, So but yeah, I like on Apple's end, great campaign for them.
Incredible campaign.
I mean, like the other part of it is like, there's like talk of like, oh, because Netflix always campaigns aggressively from the start. And like the thing they can do is like get a bunch of nominations, but they have trouble converting into wins, right?
Right.
So obviously Netflix got the nominations, like 12 nominations for Power of the Dog. And it's like, oh, is there aggressive campaigning like turning off people as well? Because
I've seen that rumored, and it's tough because like if you don't aggressively like Power of the Dog overperformed, right? It had more nominations than we even predicted, than most people predicted, and so like that was like a win. And they got like nominations for like Jesse Buckley, and they've gotten like Buster Scruggs was like one that nobody was expecting to get 3 nominations. So it's like they campaign heavily and they get the nominations that maybe you wouldn't expect. And then, there is a bit of fatigue. And when the season is so long, I mean, like we talked about with CODA, the movie is over almost a year and a half old.
Premiered at Sundance last year.
Last Sundance. So it's literally 15 months old. But for whatever reason, a lot of people talked about it in January of 2021. They saw it in August of 21 and had like a lot of coverage, and then kind of mostly forgot about it for the next like 5 months until the nominations. And then everybody started talking about it again. And maybe that was actually what it needed, because like it was like it felt new, even if it wasn't new. Not that people hadn't seen it.
That like it's like a sense of discovery, I guess. Like it's this like thing like lying in wait sort of. And that was also kind of the thing with like Penelope Cruz and like Parallel Mothers, because it was like the last thing seen sort of like the bottom of last year.
That was why
like,
we picked her, Joyce.
Like it was like coming on late. But like Apple also, like, think about it, like they are so good at just like marketing, just like their products in general, not even just movies or shows or whatever, but like their products. They know how to like appeal to the consumer to get you to buy their shit.
Right. It's true.
You know, and
I
I
mean,
think they did a really good job. Like clearly after it, like CODA won 2 SAG awards, that like they just opened the purse strings even more for the campaign. They got the cast everywhere because everyone just loves that cast. And they're super charming. They went to the freaking White House on the last day of voting.
It's
and
incredible. I do
yeah,
think
like
the SAG win was like compelling too, because even I mean we'll never know, and who knows, but I was like, I definitely picked CODA to win at SAG. I wasn't necessarily surprised that it won, I would say.
No. And I think like their campaign in the fall was like primarily SAG targeted because they knew, like everyone knew that was like their best chance at like big nominations. And even their Globe nominations were kind of a surprise.
Yeah. And then I think the response in the room at SAG was actually shocking, because like people were like incredibly excited that it won. And I wonder if that like little bit of it was like even over what they expected, and then we're like, we really could do this, because I think there is a momentum that built from SAG forward. And even if it lost at the Critics' Choice Awards, which I bet you if they voted for the Critics' Choice Awards 2 days later, it would have won, I would argue. But you know, we'll see. So CODA won. I'm happy it won. I think I usually don't like it when the movies I like win, Joyce, because you have to go through everybody just saying like that movie sucks and like I can't believe
they've already
it
been
won.
saying that.
What?
They've already been saying that.
I know, but I'm like, they were already saying it. But if it would have lost, people would have been like, oh great, it lost, and forget about it. And I mean, so now it won. I'm like, whatever. But I'm happy it won. It's fine. And
like there's always, you know, like I don't think CODA will rank high in people's rankings of like best picture winners of all time.
I don't think so. I honestly think it would be like, and I actually didn't mind this movie either. I feel like it'll age like The Artist, which Artist is not like a laughable movie that won, but it is of its time. And it's like, it was like a momentum thing that people were really excited about at the time. And I think if you look back on that year, maybe you're like, wow, beat Tree of Life and Moneyball and like
Moneyball, best movie of 2011. Okay.
Right. It like beat like a lot of, and that was like a decent year and overall. And like, was The Artist really the best movie of that year? Probably not, but like people were really in love with it. Like Uggy the dog, we loved Uggy the dog, and like, you know, Jean Dujardin.
No, it's like I mean, like there are a lot of people, like especially on film Twitter, that are upset that it won, because it's obviously the filmmaking is not actually like up there with like Power of the Dogs, really. Like no one will argue that, like cinematically speaking at all. But I don't think it'll be completely hated. I think, you know, maybe in a couple years when like we all relitigate this, we'll be like, yeah, like you said, like, oh, CODA won that year, you know, with like Power of the Dog, West Side Story, and like all the Drive My Car, you know. But yeah, like you said, it's sort of like The Artist. It's totally anodyne, like completely harmless. It makes people cry. Like that's why it won. And like
it's that emotion.
That's it. Like it makes people cry, and they don't think about why it made them cry, or like what the movie did to make them cry. Like it was just enough that it made them cry, so they voted for it. And yeah, it's sort of like The King's Speech as well, because like that's a better parallel, I guess, because there wasn't really a rival for The Artist, but it was like Social Network and King's Speech, right? And like Social Network was the Power of the Dog, like the Bleecker film, the critical hit, won a bunch of precursors, and then once the industry chimed in, it was King's Speech all the way. And that again, totally harmless film, nice, and you don't really hate it, and it's just like, oh yeah, that one. But it's like, you know, neither of these films, King's Speech or CODA, is as like incendiary as Crash or Green Book, because those were trying to do something politically, with like a race message, obviously. And even if like there are aspects of those that are better, like, you know, Crash is well edited, maybe like Green Book has better production values, I think those you know, strike a harsher chord with people when they discuss them. So I think like CODA, it won't be in like top 10 best picture winners ever, but it'll just like be there.
I mean, I actually think the movie, when I saw it, reminded me of like a 90s indie movie, and I think it like actually would fit in with a lot of like, not a lot of them, but I'm like, I Shakespeare in Love obviously has like way better production values and stuff, but I do think it's like the same feeling you get watching that as you do that Shakespeare in Love and CODA, or like even, I don't even know, like just for what it, again, production values aside, like a movie like Gladiator is like just a rip roaring entertaining movie, right? Like it's like all the pieces are great, but it is just like, man, that movie's cool. And that's, I feel like CODA, and that's what part of the reason why I think CODA won is just people liked watching it. And not saying it's better or worse than Power of the Dog. Obviously it won Best Picture. So it, in that aspect, it won over Power of the Dog. But I just think like that is, people just liked watching it, and that's why it won.
Yeah. And I think, I think it's hard for some people, especially like cinephiles, to reconcile that Best Picture doesn't always go to like the one with the top filmmaking.
Right.
Because like Best Picture, your favorite movie means different things to everyone, like whatever your metric is for measuring what's a good film. And even if, Power of the Dog has better cinematography, better editing, better all this other stuff, you could say screenplay, then CODA, it just didn't connect with people the same way. Now, if like maybe if the season were even longer, everyone complained about how long the season is. Like if the ceremony was next month, would CODA been able to hang on? I don't know.
I don't think so,
because it was really like the perfect time for it to peak.
I do think the backlash to it would have gotten a little louder. I think people would have been like, not that, I don't think there would have been a backlash to the movie like in a Green Book fashion, but I think people would have been like,
it'll like lose its luster. It was like the honeymoon period is over.
A little. I think people were just like so excited about it, and that's probably why it won. And that's it. So I mean, that's like, I guess that's it. I don't know. We like, I'm like, what we got? What else we got, Joyce? Before we move on to the
I don't know what other categories.
The only other ones I'd say. So we both botched Penelope Cruz. We had just seen one. We should.
I mean, I'm proud of picking Penelope Cruz.
Same. And then screenplay, I went with Don't Look Up. And did you also?
I did.
Original screenplay?
Yeah.
And Belfast won.
Yeah.
So Kenneth Branagh got his Oscar.
But PTA did not.
That's how I knew that they were just like it. I hate, again, I hate to say lazy, but I was just like, when
no, that's when I was like, I already knew CODA was winning before that, but once Belfast won, I was like, it's definitely winning.
Also, like, just like, again, until Will Smith's altercation with Chris Rock, and then even his speech then became like a controversial moment. None of the winners were really controversial at all. It felt like everything, not just chalk, but like the most safe picks. Like if Don't Look Up had won screenplay, original screenplay, I think that would have been like a memorable win and like a big,
or worst person in the world.
And just like the fact that Belfast won, no offense to Kenneth Branagh on Belfast, it just is like the most basic winner here and like the most uncontroversial like pick, basically, and went that way all the way down. Song, obviously Billie Eilish song winning for No Time to Die, not Dos Orguitas. I will say, Joyce, I think I texted you this, having now listened to the Encanto soundtrack 50,000 times, including this weekend. Dos Orguitas is, no offense to that song, it's a lovely song. It is like the 6th best song in Encanto, and the fact that it's nominated, that was their pick, really, I think hurt. I think
that's on Disney, and I guess Lin-Manuel Miranda, because they agreed to just.
I don't know.
Disney should submit to, like, again, they've been spooked since like all the Enchanted songs lost.
I truly,
and like now there's a rule change. You only submit 2, and they only submit 1.
I honestly think any literally 4 or 5 other songs from Encanto would have won over the Billie Eilish Bond song. Now, Joyce, did you listen to it?
No. I muted it, like, as I said I would. Yeah, because I have to go through life not hearing the song. I've only heard those 10 seconds you played for me back in like October.
Amazing.
No, like as soon as like they start playing, I was like, I have to mute. And then I unmuted it when they were done. And then when they won, I muted it while they walked to the stage, because I didn't want to hear it playing in the background, because that's what they usually do, when they walk to the stage.
I will say, when I watched it, I had not listened to the song in a long time. And when I watched them perform it live, I thought that was awesome. And I was like, oh, this song does rule. So any kind of like hesitation I had about the song, if you were like, man, Chris did not like that Billie Eilish song, now I do. I'm back in on it. I'm back in.
And Bond is now just on a win streak at the Oscars.
Yeah, it is 3 in a row. So whenever they do the next Bond in 3 or 4 years, I guess we'll have to watch out.
Do I need to watch like the next era of Bond, because I completely missed Daniel Craig?
You don't have to watch. You maybe can watch the next era of Bond. I don't know. They did a Bond tribute, Joyce, with
oh yeah, they did.
Kelly Slater, Tony Hawk, and Shaun White.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta say, and we could talk about the show, and I didn't think those tributes were very necessary or even well executed. I wasn't like as outraged as like everybody. Everybody seemed really mad that like those three guys.
I will never be mad. Bring more athletes onto award shows. You see, the problem is the problem with film Twitter. Let me tell you, is that a lot of them just like to dunk on sports. Sports are great. I love sports. Like, well, and yes. I mean, like, should they have been presenting that? Not really, because they could have just had Rami Malek like intro that and then lead into the actual No Time to Die performance. You know, the three of them could have presented something else, but you know, they were going with their theme of movie lovers unite. So they love movies and whatever.
Yeah, Will Packer in one of the interviews I think we were texting about it was like that was the Oscars was like the 1%. He was trying to do the Oscars for like the people, Joyce, it seemed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many like Tony Hawk stands are like tuning in for this. You know,
also, I would imagine
he did promote it like on Instagram yesterday, but
I would imagine that Tony Hawk is also probably part of the 1%. You know, maybe
I have to watch his documentary. I've been meaning to do that. So,
but no, like I think they were trying to like get like regular people to like talk about the things they love. I just think the Bond tribute. God, I love James Bond movies. Do we need another James Bond sizzle reel? Like nobody's starved for James Bond content. I thought the Godfather one was okay, but I just found like they have Puff Daddy introing, it was actually cool, and I thought actually not inappropriate. But then you have Al Pacino, Francis Ford Coppola, and the Godfather's Part 1 star Robert De Niro, Joyce.
So really enjoy this because I tweeted that Robert De Niro is not in The Godfather, meaning that he's not in The Godfather 1,
yes,
which was released 50 years ago.
Which is what the tribute was.
Yeah, this is what the tribute is for, because it was released 50 years ago in 1972, or 2 weeks ago now. And then everyone felt inclined to inform me that Robert De Niro won an Oscar for The Godfather Part 2. I was like, yes, I know that.
Not the right movie.
Not the right movie that they're celebrating here. Am I mad that he's there? No, not at all. But
I also wonder. I also thought he was there because I think he's actually like friendly with Puff Daddy. Is he Puff Daddy still? I know him as Puff Daddy, but I know he goes by.
I mean, I will always know him as Puff Daddy because I'm a product of the 90s.
Yes, same.
I grew up in the 90s, so yeah.
So I think they're like actually friends, Puff Daddy and Robert De Niro. Or
yeah,
like
they're from New York, so yeah.
So Joyce, let's talk about Will Smith. So Chris Rock comes out. This is like hour 4 of the show, maybe. It felt like hour 4. So we have Amy Schumer, Regina Hall, and Wanda Sykes are the hosts. They haven't been seen in hours. Chris Rock comes out to like do his like 30 seconds, like I'm gonna just like napalm this audience and do my Oscar host monologue before I intro Best Documentary. And he picks on Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith, and he says Jada is auditioning for G.I. Jane reboot or remake, or what was whatever his joke was. And Jada has alopecia, so she has, obviously that's why she has her head shaved and she's bald. So pretty not the kind of joke you want, let's say, kind of like mean-spirited, I would argue. And Chris Rock had previously dunked on Jada and Will when he hosted and they were boycotting the show. You remember that? And he was
that was the concussion year.
And he was like, can't boycott something you're not invited to. And he made a joke about him being invited into Rihanna's pants, I think was his great one-liner. And so Will like kind of chuckled. And then he got up, walked up to Chris Rock. Chris Rock looked like he was going to like, I guess we're doing a bit. And then Will Smith slapped him in the face and then proceeded to walk back to his seat and said, get my wife's fucking name out of your fucking mouth, I think was what he said. And then Chris Rock was also offended and was like, it's just a joke. And it was the most insane, chaotic thing I've ever seen on the Oscars. Completely inappropriate, I would say, for everybody involved. It's certainly Will Smith just walk up and slapping Chris Rock, not what you want. Chris Rock probably at that point in the show, maybe not. Then the show just went on. So
well, like I said on our post show, This is the year they should have had Best Actor last.
Truly. So the show just went on. Chris Rock was obviously very rattled, I would say. He looked really nervous and upset, and he gave out the documentary award to Questlove. He kind of stumbled through the intro. And then in the break, there was reports from people inside of like Will Smith was huddling with like Denzel Washington, his publicist, and Will Packer. Later, Will Smith won the Oscar, which we all expected, and then had to go up. He gave this incredibly long speech, apologized to the Academy and to his fellow nominees, but not to Chris Rock. Said he was playing, he said a line about like Richard Williams, like, oh, it was a fierce protector of his family.
Yeah, he was trying to connect it back to the film and the role.
Yes. Yeah.
And then there were so many shots of Venus and Serena, and I felt so bad for them.
Me too. I was cringing the whole time because it was tough.
Like they've been through like a lot of shit, like in the tennis world, like with their dad as well, like, and like what people have said about them throughout their careers. And you know, like the joke is always like, why are you making a movie not about them but about their dad, right? And look,
they did that joke literally. They did that joke literally during the show. Amy Schumer, that was one of her monologue jokes. Was such a great year for women. I got to see a Williams movie about Venus and Serena Williams's dad. That was
like I think I told you, like when I was at the US Open in September, and they would just play King Richard ads like during the changeovers, you know, like 30-second versions of it. And my friend was like, why is it about Richard? Like no one understands this, but this is the movie they wanted to make to honor their dad.
Yeah.
And like they've worked so hard like to just get this movie out there with like the message they want, because you could do the Googling on Richard Williams, because there's a lot of stuff about him that's obviously not in the movie, and like further on, like past 94, which is when the movie ends. So a lot of stuff there, and not all great stuff either. So this is not the way they want their movie celebrated. And you know, especially after all that other stuff 2 weeks ago with Jane and the Critics' Choice Awards, like just I felt really bad for them. And that he was really trying to connect what had happened back to the whole like, I'm a fierce defender of my family, I do this out of love, and all that stuff. And I guess it sort of worked. I don't know.
I mean, the room seemed to be behind him at the end. Obviously, he got like a standing ovation from the Williams family, and also I saw like Anjanou Ellis giving him a standing ovation, and some of the other performers. It was just so uncomfortable, because the moment, I think a lot of people when he got up were not sure if it was a bit or not, and the way they had the stage this year, so it was a little different. It kind of looked like a leftover from last year when they did it at Union Station, which I think, isn't it Union? Is that what it was called in LA? Whatever train station they have in LA. I think it's Union Station, or maybe it's not. I don't know. But anyway, they had like the table set up, and they did that this year for all like the big nominees in the front. So they were very close to the stage, and just like, I think people really did think it was a bit, and then it obviously was not, because it was like a pretty legitimate slap. And
a shot of Nicole Kidman's face, man.
Nicole Kidman has a great meme. Lupita Nyong'o is right behind Will, and like she just was like, oh God. It was just like really rough. I thought Amy Schumer had a nice way to diffuse it when she came out, and she was like, oh, what did I miss? But I'm like, it took her like 10 minutes to get them back on the stage. I don't know why the hosts were like not around. Couple of more notes here. So the LAPD had a statement, Joyce, because they said the individual involved has declined to file a police report. That would be, I assume, Chris Rock. If the involved party desires a police report at a later date, the LAPD will be available to complete an investigative report. And then I saw another report from Page 6, the gossip site, that said they will work out the slap incident after the Oscars, to work out slap incident after Oscars. Sure. I don't even know what that means. I guess at the party, maybe, and like who knows?
I don't know. Everyone's at the governor's ball now, like getting asked about this, like you know.
So I did think that was like, I mean, that's the problem. And then they also were telling people not to ask backstage.
Oh yeah.
They were also like, we caution you strongly not to ask. I saw Will Packer also tweeted, and he was like, I told y'all it wouldn't be boring, which I'm like, right about that, I guess, because it was definitely like, you gotta watch that.
They got their viral moment. So
I saw people, including some friends of mine, who were like, it was clearly staged, but I was like, it was not staged. I think Will basically talked about this in his speech, where he was just like, you're supposed to just like sit there and like grin and bear it as you're getting dunked on, I guess. And I'm like, kind of, but like also you shouldn't like go slap somebody. I don't know.
Like, yes, I understand that, it sucks that, like, to be joked about and dunked on. Yes, like, you have to sit there and take it. And, it was a mean-spirited joke about her alopecia, but you don't need to assault someone.
No, absolutely not. And
Like, that's
it was also, so they were obviously, I mean, like Will's arguably like the most famous person there. So I'm not surprised that he was like a focal point of the show. And earlier in the show, they had a funny bit with Regina Hall that I saw people also were mad at. Everybody gets mad about everything, Joyce, obviously. But I thought that bit was kind of funny where she was like calling up the hottest single guys to see who was COVID positive or whatever kind of just hoary concept it was. It was just so silly and just so hack, but she really sold it and it was funny. And then she got to Will and she was like, oh, Jada said it's okay, which is just like so uncomfortable. I was surprised that joke made it on. And
that was like, strike one, and then like Chris Rock was strike two. He didn't even wait for
that's
strike
what I was
three.
thinking. Yeah, that felt like a strike one. And then like he kind of sat through that one and chuckled, haha. And then like the other one, he was just like, no. And so then Will got up and won. And it was just like, I mean, just the most strangest moment. It really did affect the rest of the show. I mean, it was best actor, then best director, and best actress.
No, it was
right?
Just actress after and picture. Like there were two awards.
Because he won, right? But after the slap, it was a lot of them.
Oh yeah, after the slap, it was like, well, over an hour left, I guess.
Holy cow.
But yeah, it was just like, and I felt bad for Questlove because he won that category for documentary. And yeah, it's like,
yeah, that was the tough beat because a lot of these, like, everybody's just like, what is going on? And apparently I saw people saying that like in the room, a lot of people weren't paying attention like to anything that was happening.
Oh, I believe that. After.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, and then there was like, you saw like there was like videos of like Will's publicist like running up to him after to like talk to him, presumably to tell him what to say.
I guess Joyce, this just in, I just saw this tweet. The Academy has now made a statement. The Academy does not condone violence of any form. Tonight, we are delighted to celebrate our 94th Academy Award winners who deserve this moment of recognition from their peers and movie lovers around the world. So pretty anodyne statement there from the Academy.
He closed his speech by saying, I hope you'll invite me back.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I would be curious, like, forget like a performance wise or whatever, because like
next year to present Best Actress.
Will he come back? Will they invite him back? I feel like that'll be a topic of conversation for the rest of the year. I would say that, like, I guess we'll see. It's hard to talk about these things now because like him and maybe this Page Six Gossip Reporters, right? And him and Chris Rock are just going to like kind of talk it out. And everybody like agrees,
I mean, like Chris is already
not
filing charges. I don't think he'll.
No, I don't think he's going to file charges, but I'm just saying, like, if Chris Rock and him like come out and are like, oh, it's fine. Emotions were high, whatever. It was a low blow. I shouldn't have slapped him. He shouldn't have made the joke, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, people will probably just get over it, but I'll be curious to see, like, I feel like there's like got to be another statement beyond his speech, I would argue.
I don't know. I mean, he has Emancipation. I guess that's coming out this year. That was what he was.
Oh yeah, that's another big Apple movie with the Antoine.
Yeah, he was filming that last year. So he already did the Bel Air promo because that's already premiered. Like his campaign has been interesting because I think, when King Richard premiered a Telluride and it was a hit, everyone was like, where's Will? He should be here, and like to put in some FaceTime, and I was like, who cares? Like, he's the biggest star in the world. Like, it got a good reception. Mm-hmm. He has the rest of the season to campaign. Like, it's fine. And he didn't campaign. And I think people expected him to be like out there shaking hands, kissing babies on talk shows and everything, especially because he also released his book in November, like coinciding with King Richard. And really, that book just sold itself with like all the excerpts, like the wildest excerpts from that book. And he kept a low profile. Like, he didn't do a lot of press, a lot of promo at all. It was like the Frances McDormand route, like he did like that one, I think it was like GQ or Esquire profile, but that was pretty early on. And he was not really anywhere. And then he just like shows up to like the award shows, he didn't even go to BAFTA. He went to Critics' Choice.
Right.
So.
And we kind of expected that. I mean, like, he was never going to win the critics prizes, but he was going to kind of steamroll through the televised events, and he did. And like, He didn't need to.
Yeah, but I mean, like, he wasn't even like he wasn't doing like a bunch of interviews, you know.
No, he didn't
and,
do
like,
any really. He did a couple of
like
magazine covers, right?
he didn't do like actors on actors, you know,
No.
like any roundtables or anything.
He did not, and he
Yeah,
didn't need to.
so yeah, and then this, it like culminates in this. So like, and the campaign was going fine because he was the front runner the entire time and he was winning what he needed to. But yeah, so this is just kind of like a sour note to end on for him.
It's kind of, I mean, it's such a, like, I guess the thing, like the lasting thing for me is just like, it is such a bummer because it obviously takes away from like, not just the show, and like, it takes away from his win. Like, he kind of like shot himself in the foot, obviously, because now everybody's going to only remember that like Will Smith smacked Chris Rock when he won his Oscar. It just is so like, that's a really strange.
That's all people are going to remember from the show. Like, really.
So it's like that. I mean, like, so it's like, oh, and then like you said, like the Williams family, like obviously like they really obviously are so, they hold their personal brand very close, right? Like it's like that is like their story, and like that they told this story exactly the way they wanted, and it got all these Oscar nominations and won an award for Will playing their dad. And it's like, that's a great moment that is undercut now by like this other thing with, is just unfortunate. And then like all like Questlove, I still feel really bad for Questlove. He had to go up there and like give a speech, and he was so emotional, and like it was a really great moment. Obviously, like he's like, his mom was in the audience like crying hysterically, and it was so nice, I thought. And like still it was like, oh boy, just got to follow Will Smith like clocking Chris Rock in the face.
And Questlove was like the opposite Will, because he was campaigning hard and he was so excited and he did all the stuff, like, you know, and like you were excited for him. And yeah, it just like has to pall for over the rest of the show.
I mean, I'll tell you, we talked about this, I think, offline, but I'm not thrilled to go sit through like the take cycle of the next like 48 hours on this, which I'm sure we're going to get inundated with the takes about Will and about Chris Rock, and then about the violence and the slap and the Academy and security and X and that. And I'm like, boy, that's also bad. So all of it not great, Joyce. Not what you want. But
no, it's just unfortunate all around. And you know,
do you think Will, did they do? I didn't even see it. I hope do you think they did an Oscar picture with the 4 winners?
They're probably doing that now. I don't know. I mean, I've just been Zooming for like the past hour. So I don't know.
I'm going right now to Getty. Will Smith, newest. Let's see.
Has he been to the press room?
I don't think he went into the
he probably just bolted. he's gonna get his Oscar engraved and then he's gonna leave.
I mean, like there's photos like I'm looking at here like, from the show. It's like Denzel and Will, Bradley Cooper and Will, like kind of like comforting him. So it's like, I mean, they were obviously like, it's complicated.
I think the thing is, it's like, you know, everyone wanted this moment for him, right?
Yeah,
like we talked about this, how like Denzel, we joked about how Denzel was gonna vote for Will. Yeah. Like he doesn't care, you know. No. Denzel was having the time of his life. Did you see him like sitting? He was just like lounging in that chair, like he was just there for fun. And then this happens. So I think like everyone wanted Will to win, right? It was just kind of, and there was like in one of the anonymous ballots, the person was like, oh, I really like Andrew Garfield, but I'm going for Will because I like he doesn't have an Oscar. And I, you know, like he's had a great career and I really like him. And like Andrew had like other chances because he's young, whatever. So I think that was the mood. So like after that happened, I think they were like forgiving, I guess, because they like, I think they recognized like it was like a heat of the moment thing. And maybe he's like working through some stuff or going through some stuff and it shouldn't have happened, but they want this, like they want him to be better, and like he recognizes that it was like a bad thing and he's gonna apologize for it, but not to Chris Rock.
Not to Chris Rock, which I mean he should probably apologize to Chris Rock, but he definitely seemed like sheepishly embarrassed at the very least that he did that. I would say the two things I would notice is the jokes overall. So we could talk about the show, I guess. I mean, what else are we gonna say? Well, Smith, the show overall, I think we kind of both agreed it was pretty fine. There was some
fine.
parts,
it was, you know, not the best show.
No,
I would not rank it high.
Not the best, not the worst. I personally thought it was better than last year, which I thought was definitely.
It had a lot more energy than last year. I don't know.
That was the problem
because of like the setting and like, you know, the best picture actually being last.
Right. I would say like, so the three hosts, they had, so Amy Schumer's obviously, and Wanda Sykes are comics, and Regina Hall is a comic actress slash just not just an actress, but an actress. Like she's not known for like being a stand-up comic at the very least, like Wanda Sykes and Amy Schumer are. And of the three of them, I thought Amy Schumer handled her mean-spirited jokes, I'm putting that in air quotes, were a lot of times like based off of her own stupidity. Like she does like playing like the dummy in her stand-up and like kind of like making her ignorance part of the joke. So it's like funny on like a couple of levels. And sometimes that got her in hot water in the past with like racial dynamics and stuff, certainly. But like at the show, last night now, because it's morning at this point for us, she was like, a lot of the jokes I thought were funny, like even from her being like, oh, what I miss, you know, or like, oh, when even the Jesse Plemons and like Kirsten Dunst bit, when he was like, she pulled Kirsten Dunst up as a seat filler, and then she sits down to flirt with Jesse Plemons, and he's like, Amy, that was my wife, and which is a newsflash because they weren't actually announced as married. P.S. I think they were just.
I don't even know if they're still. They could just be calling each other that because a lot of couples do that.
It was like, Amy, that's my wife, and her response was, "You're married to that seat filler," which is so funny.
Great. No, her timing on her jokes were good.
Really funny,
like the Aaron Sorkin burn.
Really funny with that. She targeted people who weren't there. So Aaron Sorkin got nuked, and Leo DiCaprio saving the world for his girlfriends, which is really funny. To leave
can't go wrong with a Leo dating women younger than 25 jokes.
And I also thought that even the Don't Look Up one, even though Adam McKay was there, I thought that was a really funny, like very good joke. She was like, "Don't look up. The Academy must have don't look up the reviews because." Got nominated. She's like, but like, I think it was Wanda maybe or Regina had a bit with Sam Jackson about his like rom-coms, and like he was not feeling that bit. I didn't think at all. Like he was like not as into that as I think he could have been.
Yeah,
and then
it's
like
kind of because I always wonder like how many of them do they like inform beforehand? Like last year, you knew like Glenn Close was in on like the butt thing,
but like was like, so they had another joke where it was like, I think Amy Schumer had it with like, or maybe it was Regina, I forget. The three of them were doing the monologue basically, and it was like, oh, it's been a rough 2 years. Here's Timothy Chalamet, and they cut to J.K. Simmons, and I was like, that's pretty mean. But also, he seemed like he was in on it. But I was like, I don't think Sam Jackson seemed like he was in on like the riffing about his career, where she was like, oh, you should do like a rom-com, and I was like, and the Will jokes obviously were pretty barbed, even like the open marriage one certainly, and then also obviously the G.I. Jane joke that Chris Rock made. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe they should rethink the way they go about the mean-spiritedness next time, or it's not like, I don't know.
It's kind of jokes, like no one's ever punched Ricky Gervais at the Globes.
Right. It's like, that's true. And I'm not saying, well, nobody should punch anybody, but I'm just saying, like, I wonder if the setting is just so much that when you go back and watch like the old Billy Crystal ones, or even like Jimmy Kimmel, they were not as mean-spirited towards the people in the room, more so of like the industry at large. I don't know. I just found that like, that was notable to me during the show, that a lot of the jokes were like kind of pointed in a way that was like somewhat surprising, honestly. The other stuff was we don't talk about Bruno performance, just strange. Beyonce, I actually thought Beyonce Be Alive was not the best either, honestly. It felt like very pre-recorded, which I think it was.
It probably was.
It was totally fine. I just was like, that felt like a dueling opening of the show, and they did one at 8 and then one at 10, basically. The Bruno performance was like,
they probably, because they didn't announce the song nominees performers until Tuesday, right when voting closed. And it kind of felt like they were trying to lock Beyonce, because also it was like, I think it was the day before, it was like the report that they were trying to get her to perform in like the Compton tennis courts.
Yep.
So maybe like, I think like Bruno probably was going to be the opening, and if the Beyonce thing didn't work out, that was like their backup, I guess. So then I guess they had to move it. I thought, Beyonce was fine. I guess it's nice to hear the song in full, like not over closing credits interspersed with footage of Venus and Serena over the years, since the song was not played during the movie.
No, just at the end.
Yeah, and then she was dressed as a tennis ball, a tennis ball color.
The theme was very.
I don't know if it was a Wilson ball or a Penn ball, so I need to find out.
So you know,
Yeah,
that
and
was
then
fun.
Encanto, I just felt like it was so weird because like both the Bond thing, like we said before, it should have just been connected. Like the tribute leading into No Time to Die and like the Encanto stuff should have been connected too. Like that could have just been a medley with Dos Oruguitas, you
It
know?
felt really strange, and I would love to know. I hope they do like a postmortem with Will Packer and like kind of talk about those. I hope somebody gets to talk about those things because I would be curious to hear their reasoning. That is definitely something that stood out where you're exactly right. Like, why wouldn't you just put Dos Orguitas and we don't talk about Bruno together? Why wouldn't you put the Bond random YouTube montage of Bond clips with like Billie Eilish singing No Time to Die? It like makes no sense at all. Why is the Godfather tribute just like so in the middle of nothing? It just felt like they should have maybe gotten them together because the other tributes, that's the other thing. The other reunions were like presenters. So it was like we brought together the White Men Can't Jump cast to do cinematography, I believe.
Yes. Yeah, that was pretty early on. Yeah.
And then you had like the Juno cast to do screenplay, which I actually enjoyed. I thought that was like at least
Because that was actually an actual connection, but also rude not to invite Allison Janney, who
or Diablo Cody, who won the Oscar. Strange that she wasn't there. I don't know. I would have maybe had her just show up. It would have been nice. She probably deserved to show up. And then even like, you know, the Pulp Fiction reunion was dope. I thought that was like really cool.
And also, no one celebrates the 28th anniversary.
No, totally random, but I was like, I'm in. Like Uma Thurman's got super pumped to promote, and Sam Jackson is the governor's winner, and Travolta's Travolta. Why not? So I like that, and them giving out Best Actor was kind of cool in lieu of
because
like
Frances McDormand was like hard pass. I'm not coming to this.
And even like Liza Minnelli and Lady Gaga at the end for Best Picture, I thought was like really great, and I thought that was like another touching moment. But I'm like, I don't know, like if you're gonna get the Godfather cast together, including Coppola, why not just have them do Best Director? It felt like that would have been like the spot to
or
just
as we were discussing last week, why don't I have them do Best Picture? We were like, we were trying to guess who was going to read CODA.
Right, but you have Lady Gaga and Liza Minnelli. Actually, was like that actually was pretty dope. But like you could have them. Like I just thought like having the Godfather tribute just exist as a tribute was so weird.
Yeah, it felt like it could have like really ended with that, and like they could have done Best Picture, because also you could have had Gaga and Liza do Best Actor because Frances wasn't there, and Gaga is a past Best Actress nominee and Liza is a past Best Actress winner.
Right, and you could have had, you know, Pulp Fiction and Juno do the screenplays, even though it's two original screenplays or whatever.
Yeah, who did adapted with Shawn Mendes and who?
I don't even remember who it was. That's
who
bad.
Oh, Tracy Ellis Ross. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, right.
ABC.
Right.
Yeah, Synergy. Right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was that was
yeah.
fine.
What do you think about hashtag Oscars cheer moment and hashtag Oscars fan favorite both going to Zack Snyder?
Incredible flex by the Snyder fans. Respect. I would say, how did they not just fudge that? If I was the Oscars and I had it, like we joked about this literally last week. I was like, I can't wait to see this gruesome goddamn zombie movie, Army of the Dead, on the Oscars. And then there it was, cheer moment, fan favorite. So ridiculous. I just don't understand why they didn't just lie. I don't know. They could have easily just bent it. It's social media. They could have said, "Oh, half of these votes don't count," or "We didn't really have," or just I don't know. I just was surprised they like had to throw up mini.
And like Minamata was like third, right?
Yeah, unbelievable. And the cheer moment was the Flash over Avengers and all these other things. I mean, again, I get why they did that to generate interest online, but it just felt like such weird.
Well, it was also calculated because they did this because Spider-Man wasn't nominated for Best Picture, and this was like obviously, you know, like geared towards, or like they wanted it to exist for Spider-Man to have two chances to win something. Right. And it didn't.
I mean, I guess couldn't they have just done like Spider-Man, like do a tribute to Spider? I don't know. The Oscars when Black Panther was out and not nominated the year before it was nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, in 2018. Yeah,
they did, and I guess I know it's Disney and it was ABC, but like Spider-Man is sort of part of the Marvel family.
Marvel.
But they did a whole tribute to Black Panther at that Oscars. That was just like,
well,
hey,
also like Andrew Garfield was right there.
Right. So they could have easily done like a Spider-Man thing.
Yeah, Benedict is right there.
But they did not.
JK is right there, but he's doing Juno. So yeah, so it just I mean, we said this a couple weeks ago when they released the current standings at the time. Like And I was like, I would just love it if Cinderella or Power of the Dog won, because the whole purpose of this experiment was for Spider-Man to win. And it would just be great if it's like Cinderella winning or Power of the Dog, this like supposedly boring movie, to win a fan favorite like Twitter award. So I'm doing air quotes there. So yeah, so instead the Snyder Stands came out.
So good for them. We'll see if they do that again next year. I don't think they will. I don't know. It just felt like, again, it was another thing that we spent weeks destroying and being outraged about, that they kind of tossed off on the ceremony and didn't even seem, I guess,
yeah, it was just like an interstitial bumper. Like no one introduced it or anything.
Nothing. It, honestly, with that and with the categories that they cut and then re-edited into the show, it just felt like no one's heart was even into the initiative. Like no, it felt like nobody was interested in like actually like announced it. They
like,
did it.
I don't think any of them care about this. Like I don't think anyone like truly loves the Oscars or like movies, even though ironically it's called Movie Lovers Unite.
Either that or, I mean, yeah, I don't even know. I was like, that was such a, I don't know. I don't think they'll do it again. And I'll be curious to see who they'll, I mean, like I've seen like other people say this too. So it's like one way to fix the show would just be have a little bit of consistency and hire somebody to produce it for the next like 5 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you're producing the Oscars and then just, you could build momentum. Because I think if you think back on even like the best shows, it's like Billy Crystal doing it multiple years in a row is like good, because people are like, we like Billy Crystal and it's fun to have him.
Yeah, no, they need to have a producer or producing team for more than 1 year, because every year they just keep bringing a new face in to try to like quote unquote fix this when they're trying to fix the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not going to get 40 million viewers again. Like that's just not the way the world is anymore.
No.
Yeah, and they're like going about it the wrong way and not targeting their actual audience. So like, because like, yeah, like all the 8 categories when they re-edited it, it was just like by the books, and it was like the voiceover reading nominees. Like you could have, since the show was going so long anyway, you could have like done all these categories live, and you could have shown clips of all these nominees and show the actual craft of like the sound work, you know, and the production design, like all their sketches and drafts or whatever.
That felt like a big thing that was missing, honestly. And it didn't really contextualize anything about movies. The clips were nice for the actors, obviously, but
yeah,
like they picked
some good clips for the actors.
They did pick good clips for the actors, and I was glad they didn't actually excise those clips as we got to the end when they were running well over.
That happens at the Emmys a lot.
Yeah, it does. Joyce, I got our for our experts here. You and I both were at 69.57%.
This is probably the worst I've done in a while, but I knew I would, because I went back to Power of the Dog yesterday, because I was just like, I'm just gonna go down with the ship, because I knew CODA was winning, but I was like, I'm just gonna stick with it, because I already had Penelope Cruz.
The top experts were Scott Mantz, Wilson Morales, and
did anyone get a perfect score? Because
not from the experts, but I think real people did. Yeah,
real people. Okay, yeah. Congratulations to them. Again, very easy to get a perfect score.
Yeah, if you just went chalk, you were probably okay. So
yeah, it's us. It's our fault for thinking highly of the voters. I guess that they wouldn't be sheep.
Joyce, we'll wrap up here. We want to do, this is our last one of the Oscar ones. We'll do these for Emmys, obviously, and like we could do more. I think we should relitigate. What do you think? We didn't even talk about. I think we should relitigate old Oscars. I think that could be fun as a side project.
Oh yeah, no one's ever done that on the internet, but no, we could totally do that. We could
not like us.
No, not us. Our takes are the most important. No, we should. You know what? We should do a '90s one, since we. What were we talking about last time?
Definitely should do a 90s one. But last things, any lasting thoughts on the Oscar? I think we both were.
It was a long season. Yeah, it's funny how people complain about the season being long, but I don't like. CODA would not have won without this extra time. No, and way. I know I'm in the minority. I actually like the Oscars being in March, because again, that's what I grew up with, and I think I like it equidistant from the Emmys, which is in September. Mm-hmm. And I think the key difference is like the last ceremony in March was in 2003, like pre-social media. And even though last year's ceremony was in April, the calendar was extended to the end of February. So it still like we had like a longer phase 1 period. And then it was still kind of like weird because of like COVID and everything. So like the phase 2, I guess, didn't seem as long. But yeah, like this year, I think with like social media now that was not present back in 2003 or like the 90s, and everyone just like constantly talking about the race and like these movies and contenders like every single day and like over analyzing it, I think that's what made people tired of it. Because I'm like, we're still a month shorter than last year. Like last year's was April 25th.
Shocking
and
that
you're saying
last
this
year
is long. Like,
so
I don't
long.
want it back in February.
So I go back and forth on this. I think it's too long, but I do think I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
Can I tell you my dream like
Yes,
award season? I've thought about this for a while. So
please.
I think everyone, like every awards group, like every critics group, like even if you're in the middle of nowhere in Oklahoma, no offense to Oklahoma, like everyone gets screeners, like no matter what, you just send them out. It's like you don't withhold them by a certain date, and then everyone privately votes. Every group votes by, let's say, December 31st. And then you lock in the votes, and then starting in January, you stagger the announcement of the nominations. You could do like 20 a day. I do not care. You could end with the Oscars, the last group to announce their nominations. But the point being that no one can copy someone's homework. Like you have to do your own thing. You already like voted for whoever you wanted, and you can't be influenced by someone else or try to influence someone else. So then review all the nominations, and you do the same thing for phase 2. Like you have until, I don't know, like end of February to vote for winners. And then you stagger the announcement of the winners like throughout March. So it'll be a little different with the winners because there might be some overlap with nominations. And then if you have the same nominees as like the Oscars, you might be more inclined to vote for those people in your awards. But the hope is for like a BAFTA Best Actress situation with like no overlap, right?
I do think that's the issue. I think that it's not the Oscars' fault. It is everything else that is like kind of coattailing.
Yeah, like they're just rubber stamping, and like I just like, you know, like when we have like full acting sweeps that we have twice already in the last 4 years, like 2020, like the same 4 people. Like all these actors are great. I have no issues with them winning these awards or winning Oscars in the end. But you cannot convince me that these are the only good 4 performances of the year. There are so many overlooked performances, and not every performance every year is like top-notch Hall of Fame, undeniable, right? Like those are so rare, and you cannot tell me that we have 4 of them in 1 year like that.
It's truly, yeah. I mean, no offense to Jessica Chastain. I feel like we're picking on her specifically because Best Actress is so fluid. But you could have easily had like all 5 of them winning something, plus the 4 or 5 actresses who weren't even nominated winning.
Yeah, and like Jessica didn't even fully sweep like Will and Ariana did, you know?
Right.
Like, yeah.
Like Ariana DeBose, yeah, like we could have had like, I don't know.
Kirsten Dunst win something.
Kirsten could have won. Aunjanue Ellis could have won.
And I think like you should just be proud if you're an organization trying to give out an award, you should be proud of your award. Like you shouldn't be trying to copy someone else's award or influence somebody.
Right.
You know, and if you should be wanting the Oscars to copy you.
Right. That's true. Yeah, you want to get instead of like trying to predict what the Oscars are going to do. That is frustrating. And then also, Joyce, since this is probably the last time we're going to talk about a Mike Feist, just an unforgivable snub. That's it.
Yoo Jung-yoon could have presented Best Supporting Actor to him, and
see, the thing is, I love Troy Kotsur is like my favorite speech of the night and like my favorite acting winner. So I'm like, man, can we get a tie and give Mike the Oscar too? That would have been nice.
Everyone should have done a write-in vote for him. I tweeted this the other day, but I was like, I was so disappointed that of like the 25 anonymous ballots that we got last week, like only one person, and this person had a lot of questionable takes in the rest of their answers.
That's a very
but the only correct thing he said was that the true supporting actor was not nominated this year, and that was Mike Feist. And yes, yeah.
We salute Mike Feist. I will say
a winner in our hearts. And you know what? We are going to get him the Oscar for Challengers, the next great tennis movie. It's going to be better than King Richard.
Him and Zendaya, Luca Guadagnino, right? Isn't that the director?
Yes, and Josh O'Connor. I read the script. Amazing, because it was on the blacklist. Nice. I have a lot of thoughts, all tennis related.
Nice.
And Amy Pascal, hire me as a consultant, please.
Let's end it there, Joyce. This has been fun. I'll talk to you soon. Okay,
Bye.
bye.